guys, what's up? It's me, Thomas. Tonight we're back here with the Green Scorpion. Tonight, well, I don't watch out for lightning strikes because we got top 10 video game Electromancers. So yeah, basically these guys will, well, they command the storms. Whether it be lightning, winds, you know, basically they gotta control electricity. So, who's gonna shock us the most? Let's find out. Be sure to like, subscribe for more. Hope you enjoy. Let's go. See you. 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
Lightning, the element of discovery. Throughout history, this skyborne power has fascinated mankind since it first lit the sky above us, sparking our imagination and need to understand it. Over millennia, man theorized, tested, learned to collect and harness lightning and identify it as electricity, learning in time that it was the same power found in a catfish's sting, in statically charged amber, and in fact, the very atoms that construct our body and everything around us. Hello everyone, the Green Scorpion here, and welcome to Week 5 of Weapons Month 4. And I gotta say, I've been looking forward to this one. We've now surpassed the 4 natural elements of most mythologies, and now we come to lightning,
water,
or
fire,
electricity if
air.
you prefer. Sometimes filed under air or fire, lightning more often appears as its own standalone element for magic users and superpowered individuals. In fact, it's more prevalent in video games than most of the natural 4, joining fire as part of the archetypal elemental trinity. Lightning is characterized for being bright, sharp, and ridiculously fast. An Electromancer is expected to have great strength and speed to control such a caustic element. In fictional media, lightning powers are often shown not only to be dangerous, but they also take a serious toll. Electricity itself is merely paralyzing them in motion, and there's really no way to hold on to lightning without constantly expending it. Oftentimes it must be either self-generated or drawn from a battery or other similar object. Like with fire, you don't see an awful lot of tanky lightning benders, with them usually preferring perpetual motion to standing and blocking. Ingenuity can
basically
also
strike hard, strike
with
fast.
Many modern-day appliances run on electricity, the magnetic properties of the object, and the existence of similar energy in all things, they have a lot to work with. Compared to seeking out dedicated water or air practitioners, lightning was bursting with dozens of top-notch contenders I could have gone with. It was tough choosing just 10, and many worthy fighters simply struck out. So please, as always, put your favorites in the comments. But let's get
again, games he's played, one per franchise,
Electromancers,
and they gotta use that as the main weapon. Here we go. First up,
just making it onto the list is the Red Knight from Castle Crashers. Yeah, I know all of the playable Crashers have pretty much the same few spells with different elemental variations, and the Orange Knight didn't even make it onto the Pyromancer's list. But there's just something special about the Red Knight. First of all, red for lightning is pretty cool. I would have expected yellow or maybe blue, but red lightning gives him a distinctive flair. I've actually seen some sources rank the Red Knight as the best out of the starting 4, while others rank him even lower, possibly because of the specific qualities of his spells. The Red Knight's specialty is crowd control, taking out large groups, and the ability to paralyze those hit with his red bolts. His magic damage is lower than most of the characters, but I still find myself maxing magic first to take advantage of his higher MP pool for the sake of disabling hordes. This does leave a lot to be desired against bosses and beefy enemies who aren't affected by knockback. But that's not what I play the Red Knight for. No! Red Knight is a duelist. In the PvP matches before saving each damsel, Red Knight reigns supreme, chiefly thanks to his splash attack Thunderbolt. Instead of the normal explosion animation, Red's Thunderbolt is a ray that grows incredibly long the more ranks you put in magic. And unlike most magic, there's no knockback. Quite the contrary, Thunderbolt will hold its conductor in place as long as you hold the button down and maintain some magic points. In these PvP duels, sometimes one hit with his lightning beam is enough to end the match. You're Palpatine, and they're Mace Windu. Red Knight, we are going to kiss so many princesses. Wait, no.
Oops. Womp womp. Poor Red Knight. Okay, so clown dance aside, number 9.
Colonel Yevgeny Borozovich.
Colonel Volgin.
It might be hard to keep track with Ocelot the boss and Eva all running around causing trouble, But this crazy commie with the awesome name is the true villainous impetus in Metal Gear Solid 3. Standing at 6'7", he's a trained marksman and heavyweight boxer, well read in the literature of at least 3 different countries, and oh yeah, he has electrokinetic powers.
Oh boy.
I'm not really sure
how that
why
happened.
he does. After scouring the Metal Gear wiki, the best I could find is that he combined his tremendous strength and skill with unexplained ability of electrical manipulation. This is Hideo Kojima. He doesn't have to explain this crap.
Fair enough.
With his vast array of skills and the Cobra unit backing him up, Volgin hatches a complex but strangely ingenious plan to escalate the Cold War to the breaking point and overthrow Khrushchev so that he can secretly control the Soviet Union. He's also a complete sadist. He enjoys an unhealthy physical relationship with multiple of his subordinates.
Damn.
He also really enjoys interrogation through torture. He's not very good at it. Nearly all of his victims die of electrocution before he can get any information, but he really enjoys it. And when dealing with a particularly noteworthy POW, he enjoys giving them the chance of survival in one-on-one fisticuffs. This might sound honorable until you consider that Volgin has the deck stacked against his opponents. For whatever reason, Volgin's physical anomaly allows him to generate up to 10 million volts of electricity at will.
10 million?
And yeah, that's a big number, so it probably sounds like he should be number 1. Well, not exactly an electrical engineer, but let me clarify. You see, it's not the voltage that kills you, it's the current, which can be calculated by Ohm's law. Voltage equals current times resistance. Voltage just measures a difference in electrical potential between 2 points. Applying Ohm's law to determine what will hurt a human being is kind of useless anyway. The resistance of the human body varies depending on what contact points of the body are used, the environment, wetness or dryness of skin, and a dozen other factors. But you're probably not here for a science lesson, so let's just say that high voltage tends to lead to higher current, which tends to be more deadly. For a more straightforward perspective, some high-end police-grade tasers also operate at 10 million volts, the same as Volgin. So one touch isn't going to kill someone outright, but it can temporarily disable your nervous system, and prolonged exposure is eventually going to end pretty badly. His power seems to take its toll on Volgin too, with several scars all over him from any time his body's current goes too high. To combat this, Volgin wears a rubber-insulated suit under his uniform. This increases his body's resistance, keeping him safe but maintaining a high voltage that he can transfer to other people. It's his general lack of control that makes Volgin less of an ideal Electromancer, but that doesn't stop him from doing some serious damage. Remember how I said he lets his opponents fight him head-on? Well, using his electricity, he can supercharge his own muscular system, which at one point allows him to punch through the titanium hull of the Shagohod. Yeah, electrically charged Volgin can punch with the strength of a warhead. Snake only stands a chance due to his mastery of CQC, through which he can redirect Volgin's blows and use his own power against him. This is easier said than done, however, as the residual energy coming off of Volgin's skin can harm and even paralyze Snake. Volgin electrifies metal surfaces and even draws power from a switchbox once he gets desperate. And his electrical blast can actually deflect bullets and violently disable firearms, but my favorite technique is his use of ammo. Over his suit, he wears a buccaneer of rifle shells. Using his electricity, he can ignite the propellant in the rounds, expelling the force of a gunshot. He'll use this to either protect himself or put some bullets between his knuckles before a punch. This devastating punch works threefold. First, by punching someone with his already bolstered strength, then by igniting the shells to simulate a rifle being fired at point blank, and finally, using the metal dust in the air, conducting Volgin's electricity and channeling it right into the poor sap. All of that with one punch. So why is fighting him such a cakewalk? Yeah, the fight against Volgin is actually kind of disappointing. There are some easy exploits, mainly his poor enemy tracking. Shooting out the pipes can create some water to short-circuit him, and you can prepare some glow-cap mushrooms to sap his power. He also drops his guard if you disguise yourself as Rykov. He has an irrational fear of frogs. Oh, and did I mention, he's incredibly superstitious. Every time he hears rain, he has to recite a Japanese nursery rhyme for fear of an electrical storm. So while the technique isn't really there, you have to admire that
he's
power.
more brute.
Even after defeating him twice, he still manages to power the Shagohod himself. But finally, bad karma and too much ionization get the better of him, and he's struck down by his own element. That one time he forgot to say the nursery rhyme. Snake couldn't kill Volgin. Only the power of dramatic irony could take him down.
I think he actually did. I don't know.
Ready for some more, Snake?
Let's see, number 8.
What do you get when you cross a dragon, a wolf, and a bolt of lightning? You get Zinogre.
Oh.
No, this isn't the evolved form of Manectric. It's one of my favorite beasts from the Monster Hunter series. What can I say? I love wolves. Actually, this Scourge of the Misty Peaks is a fanged wyvern, but its physiology and even the way it moves are rather wolf-like. It's no coincidence. The Zenogre is inspired by Raiju, a beast figure from Shinto mythology and counterpart to Raijin, or Raiden, the god of thunder and lightning. It was said that this normally docile canine can become agitated at the sound of thunder and actually become a ball of lightning, leaping off of houses and tall trees. Well, while Zenogre himself doesn't actually become lightning, he certainly grows more ferocious in a storm. The Zenogre strikes near the top of the food chain with very few predators to compete with it. It is able to charge itself by calling swarms of thunderbugs to its side. Though it takes some time to charge, completing the process causes its spikes to glow, stand on end, and give off extra energy. In this charged-up state, its already relentless claw and fang attacks will become stronger and faster, and will also inflict Thunderblight, a status condition abhorred by any experienced hunters. Suffering from Thunderblight makes a hunter or monster more prone to being stunned. Not only does it make him a difficult pup for hunters to fight, it aids the beast in taking down other monsters bigger than himself. Yeah. I really like the symbiotic relationship in play between Zenogre and the Thunderbugs. Zenogre's favorite prey are the chicken-like Gargua, who are the main predators of the Thunderbugs. But staying around Zenogre, the Thunderbugs are protected from the Gargua, and by guarding the iridescent insects, not only can Zenogre attract tasty chicken beasts, it can empower itself to rule whatever terrain it hunts in. Keeping to their lone wolf nature, Zenogre are usually encountered alone, and even if a group of hunters can get the upper hand, the Zenogre can make a quick escape and gobble up pretty much any wildlife it finds to keep its stamina up. With enough charge, the Zenogre becomes harmful to the touch, can spit electrospheres, and even roar to call down lightning around it. Then there's the occasional Zenogre that can accomplish just a little bit more,
red lightning,
absorbing not just regular thunderbugs, but the bugs that have eaten the rare dragonfell berries. That exceptional beast is the Stygian Zenogre. Stronger, faster, and rocking the red Sith lightning look, this is a wyvern you want to think twice about before slaying. Instead of Thunderblight, its attacks now cause Dragonblight, which can lower a hunter's weapon affinity by up to 50%. That is crippling. I know it's the dragon element now and not the thunder element, but it still looks like lightning to me. And what is the dragon element anyway? I say it's just cooler looking energy. The Stygian Zenogre doesn't bust out any new moves, but he is able to act more quickly between attacks, including going from a spinning attack straight into electrical breath. That's what puts Zenogre above Volgan for me. Volgan is powerful, but he's not particularly quick, and when you think of lightning, you usually think of something moving at blinding speeds. It may take him some time to charge up, and he may be incredibly vulnerable while doing so, but Zenogre's a storm once he gets going, and an heirloom you'll be proud to mount on your wall. Battery's not included.
Thank God for that. Jeez, a lightning wolf. Okay, I gotta admit, that actually does sound pretty dope. I guess that's why we have a Manectric in Pokemon. I think that's actually a common trope. When you think lightning, you think wolves and vice versa, you know? You know, they're fast, they hunt fast. Surprised we don't see a lot of packs of them. I think they're solo monsters, aren't they? Or do they really hunt in packs? I'm kind of curious. Anyway, moving along. Number 7?
As fearsome as Zenogre is, I can only follow up with a monster that's even more ferocious. The Lord of Thunder, the earth-shaking, the titanic... Pikachu.
Pika, Pika!
Yeah, why not? The mascot of Pokemon, why not?
What, smaller than you expected? You laugh now, but this is not a rodent to be taken lightly. Colonel Volgan powered the Shagohod in pursuit of controlling Russia, but in the mid-90s, Pikachu took over the world. Toys, cards, anime, 3 Macy's Day balloons, and a mascot for Japan's soccer team at the World Cup. Pikachu is a freaking czar! But there's more to Pikachu's moveset than charm. As number 25 in the Pokédex, I don't think Pikachu was ever intended to be the one true mascot of the franchise. But Ash needed a starter for the anime, and instead of choosing between Kanto's 3 starters, the producers went for the first rare Pokemon on the list, and the rest was history. As an electric type, Pikachu has few resistances, but only one real weakness, as common as Earthquake is in the meta. And, well, it's not even fully evolved. You would think Raichu would be the better choice here. For a time, Pikachu was actually better than his big brother in the meta thanks to the Light Ball, a Pikachu exclusive item that supercharged the little guy. Raichu is preferred in competitive play nowadays, but both are in the never-used tier
I think that's more of the,
It's not really about that.
Isn't it for Alolan?
I could have gone with Zekrom or Zapdos, but Pikachu is just so much more than the stats in the main series can really represent. From different sources like the Pokédex, we can put together a pretty detailed synopsis of Pikachu in their natural habitat. Pikachu collects energy in the air and stores them in its little pouches on its cheeks. When it has too much energy or needs to defend itself, Pikachu can expel this as an electrical current from its tail or even fire it at range. It also uses this when foraging for berries, to sense its surroundings, and even cook its meals. A Pikachu can sense the electricity of other Pikachu, which causes them to come together into little Pika tribes. When enough of them join together or they get too excited, they can cause heavy storms above them and often get themselves struck by lightning, which doesn't really bother them anyway. Some sources state that Pikachu produces an average current of 1,000 amperes.
Amperes now?
Okay, if I can just put my scientist glasses on one more time. Holy sh! As I said before, it's difficult to determine the lethality of something based only on current, but let's look at the average effects of the human body. Low voltage shocks are actually more likely to kill a human being, where high voltage has larger effects but they're easier to treat. The fatal current for a human being is usually around 100 to 200 milliamperes, so anything above 0.2 amperes is treatable. Oof. Pikachu delivers 1,000! I wouldn't worry about the heart or nervous system. At that point, you're pretty much just burnt to a freaking crisp.
Yeah.
But hey, the Pokédex is known to exaggerate, and I should probably stop talking about Ohm's Law before a much more qualified person schools me in the comments.
Probably already has.
Stats put him at below average 90 in speed, Pikachu is always depicted as being incredibly fast, possibly due to its natural ability to learn Quick Attack, Agility, and Double Team to boost its evasion.
True.
Pikachu also enjoys a selection of nearly every notable electric move in the catalog. The reliable Thunderbolt and the more haphazard Thunder, the physical Spark and Wild Charge, Thunder Wave for inflicting paralysis, and Nuzzle, which is just Thunder Wave plus damage. Electro Ball, Discharge, and its signature Volt Tackle, and it can also learn Light Screen, which I know is a psychic move, but I like to think that it has something to do with the ionization of the atoms in the air. With TMs, it can learn Volt Switch for some guerrilla shock tactics, and through tutoring it can learn Thunder Punch, Shockwave, and even Electro Web somehow, along with Magnet Rise, where it can basically magnetize itself to float above the ground-type weakness. Pikachu comes standard with the ability Static, so just touching this little thing is liable to get a Pokemon paralyzed, but in Gen 5 it also got the hidden ability Lightning Rod. With this, not only is Pikachu immune to the incoming electric attacks, it will actually draw thunder aimed at its allies to itself, and will actually gain special attack from the blow. Again, I can't recommend running Pikachu in competitive play. This is about the phenomenon, not any kind of viable strategy. Pikachu was a starter in the special Yellow version, which is probably what inspired Red to carry his legendary Pikachu to Generation 2. Yeah, forget Raikou. Red's Pikachu is the real legend.
Yeah, look,
Level 88 in the remakes. That's the hugest Pokemon used by any NPC ever. Then there's Super Smash Bros., where Pikachu's agility and spammable thunder moves have made it the ever-popular choice for beginners. Not to mention, it makes Volt Tackle look really cool. Then there's Pokken Tournament. You ever want to see a Pikachu trained by Heihachi Mishima? Not only does it use Thunder Punch, it creates a giant Brofist out of electricity. Then there's Pokepark. Then there's Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. Then there's Cosplay Pikachu. You ever want to see a fuzzy electrical luchador? Well,
there you go.
You've got it. Pikachu may not be the most powerful of electric types, but by
he's
God,
definitely
he's
transcend
not losing
that
his spark anytime soon.
and beyond. Heads up! We said number 6.
I still can't get enough of that luchador Pikachu. I love it. I'm surprised there's not a ninja Pikachu. Oh wait, there is, and his name is Kennen.
Balance in all things.
Yeah, I originally thought about going with Xerath, who is also...
A golem? That?
Enthusiastic about electricity, but I decided instead to go with Kennen. A lot of Xerath's arcane energy is kind of hard to define. He's also not the fastest champion out there, and like I said, I like my Electromancers sharp and speedy. Like most Yordles, Kennen was born in Bandle City, but from the moment he was born, he had seemingly boundless energy and was just an incurable prankster. His antics eventually caught the ear of the Kinko Order, a society in Ionia dedicated to preserving the balance in Deloran. It was believed by the Kinko that all things had to be equal: light, shadow, order, chaos, yin and yang. So it appointed 3 warriors to become the triumvirate that would preserve the equilibrium. Well, that seems like a terrible job for Kennen. He's a hyperactive hamster lacking the resolve to finish his vegetables, let alone spend days on end in meditation. But the Kinko saw in Kennen a potential even he himself couldn't imagine. If the ninja trio was to stand for balance, a member from outside of Ionia was needed, a trickster and renegade who could balance out Shen's stoicism and Akali's rigid resolve. Kennen was such a bad candidate that he's actually the perfect candidate, and that follows right into his abilities. The Kinko harnessed Kennen's vigor and trained him in ninjutsu. Like his ninja peers, Kennen does not have an MP pool, but rather draws his spells from energy, so his lightning powers aren't actually magic despite the descriptions used for some of his abilities. Remember when I talked about Ki in the martial arts list? It's the same thing here. Kennen is so in tune with the energy of his own body that he's able to expel it. And in the same way that Liu Kang's ki manifests as fire, Kennen's manifests as electricity. Cool, fitting, but wait. This once again kind of invalidates his entire mission statement. Kennen fights using charges, but charge by his nature means that something is out of balance. Let's go back to grade school science for a moment. Atoms and molecules, when left alone, possess an equal number of positively charged protons and negatively charged electrons. If there is more than one subatomic particle than the other, you get an ion, and the object in question now has a charge or electrical potential.
So basically either a
positive
positive or negative
the
ion.
net charge of the object should be 0, but Kennen is actively separating the positive and negative energies around him and creating electricity. He is actively disrupting the balance of his surroundings. I'm not making this up either. Go watch Season 2 of The Last Airbender. They'll tell you the same thing. Is Kennen ignoring balance altogether? Is his disbalance supposed to balance out his team's balance?
I mean,
This is getting confusing. But I promise this is going somewhere. Kennen fights with a variety of electrical attacks. He charges his metal shurikens to throw them at foes, dealing AP damage. With his passive, all of his abilities inflict Mark of the Storm on whomever they hit, meaning they themselves have been partially charged. With Electrical Surge, Kennen can shoot streams of electricity to anyone who is marked. This can also add to the marks. If the opponent gets 3 stacks of Mark of the Storm, they will be stunned. Now then, are you ready for all of this to make sense? Kennen isn't just electrocuting his opponents, he's ionizing them. Electricity, in a way, is just the natural energy emitted as atoms try to regulate themselves and redistribute their charge. So let's say Kennen hits you with a shuriken. You are now slightly negatively charged. If Kennen is manipulating his own electrical field to be positively charged, then his harmful electrical attacks like Electrical Surge are going right for the negative charge. Shen and Akali may be in perfect balance, but Kennen is actually fighting you with balance. But putting philosophy and the particle physics aside, Kennen's just really good, and has since become one of my favorite mid and top laners. That 1.25 second stun is a lot of opportunity for damage in Kennen time, and as if he weren't fast enough, he can actually turn into a ball of electricity, doubling his speed, ignoring unit collision, quickly farming minions, and yes, applying more Marks of the Storm. And his ultimate, Slicing Maelstrom, is up there as one of my favorite ultimates in the game, as it's just everything Kennen already does cranked up to, well, 1000 amperes. Kennen creates an electrical field in a large radius around him, sending the environment's energies into flux, dealing heavy damage, and still working into his passive. And during all of this, he can still attack and cast other spells, and it still works if you use Zhonya's Hourglass to hide. Great for team fights, but a well-fed Kennen can sometimes fight an entire team by himself. He may be entropic, but by the time Kennen is done, the only thing out of balance will be his KDA ratio.
Their final moments approach.
Number 5 coming up.
Wow, I really went overboard on that last one. And it's not like I need to consider the science behind these characters, it's just kind of fun for me sometimes. But for a change of pace, let's throw science out the window and look at more godlike beings. Well, who better than the Thunderer himself, the Greek god Zeus?
That's right.
More specifically, his incarnation in God of War. He's not specifically the god of thunder or lightning, but usually referred to as the god of the sky, but his sky powers, in these games, is almost exclusively electrical. As the king of the gods, it goes without saying that this guy is pretty powerful, and this character retains many of the grandest feats from Greek mythology. The youngest child of the Titan Kronos, Zeus saves his siblings from the belly of their murderer's father and waged war against the Titans alongside Poseidon and Hades. He claimed victory almost single-handedly and cast the Titans into the maw of Tartarus, beckoning a new age of the gods. And things go pretty well until, well, everything in the God of War series. When Ares is out of control, Zeus secretly helps his long-lost son, the ever-hard-of-hearing Kratos, to slay the God of War and take his place. But Zeus soon realizes that Kratos' power has become too great, and that Kratos may one day dethrone him, so Zeus spends the next 2 games doing everything in his power to kill Kratos, actually succeeding a few times, but this is Greek mythology, and Kratos can literally fight his way out of the underworld.
Pretty much.
Zeus' signature weapon is the Blade of Olympus, which he forged during the Great War, giving him the power to send the Titans away. It's a blade of holy thunder that is powerful enough to kill a god, which means it's actually capable of killing Zeus himself, and he kind of lost it to Kratos when he backstabbed the Spartan at the beginning of God of War 2. That's okay though, Zeus also has his thunderbolts and enough electrical and physical might to show Kratos who's daddy. He possesses superhuman strength and durability, is said to run at the speed of light, can throw thunderbolts that pack the energy of a torrential storm, and can even teleport, leaving a small electrical explosion in his wake. Whether they're rays, bombs, lightning mines, or thunder punches, Zeus has quite an array of elemental powers. And did I ever mention the Zeus clones? More Zeus means more thunder. Even when Kratos appears to finally kill him, Zeus's soul comes out and starts beating the crap out of him. It takes the power of Pandora's box and an especially angry Kratos armed with an expensive ensemble of ancient Greek super relics to finally take him down. So with all this power, why not make Zeus number 1? Well, he's certainly fast enough, and honestly, he's probably more powerful than most of the following 4 characters. I'm just looking for a little more flash, I suppose. And besides, he lost his signature weapon to Kratos through most of the series. And I'm still mad that Poseidon uses lightning in this game. Seriously, Zeus, tell your big brother to stop taking your stuff.
Yeah, to be fair, and I know I'm pausing early, but yeah, if you guys know God of War, it was kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Basically, one of his sons would eventually rise up to, well, destroy him. He got the wrong brother, and now, well, the bringer of the doom of Greece, right there. Way to go, Zeus. Probably should have left Kratos alone. Oopsie. Anyway, number 4.
By all accounts, Zeus should really be higher. I mean, Zeus is the god of thunder. But you know, Zeus is also the god of the sky and has a lot of other things going for him.
True.
Phosphora, the loyal servant of Viridi, the goddess of nature, lives and breathes lightning. And I just really like Phosphora, okay?
Fair.
As Viridi's most prominent commander, Phosphora is to Viridi as Pit is to Palutena. It's an interesting comparison that I think the game could stand to put more focus on. She may not be a hugely important character, but her chapter, entitled Lightning Battle, is pretty freaking intense. At the height of Palutena's feud with Viridi, Hades re-enters the fray to reap chaos, and each of the gods put their best generals out in the field. Viridi sends in Phosphora, Hades sends Thanatos for some reason, and Palutena sends an overwhelmed Pit. What follows is a harrowing dogfight where Pit can only hope to keep up while Phosphora and Thanatos clash in a spectacular display. Remember that Thanatos was a boss earlier and took at least some effort to take down. And now he's revived more powerful and in a glow dragon form, but Phosphora manages to take him out without breaking a sweat. A lot of people don't really like this character from what I'm reading, denouncing her as kind of a ditzy blonde stereotype, but I think there's more going on here. She's very quick to flirt with Pit, and she has her catty exchanges with Palutena over age, but notice that she herself never gets too heated. She does this to get a rise out of the Army of Light, and it seems pretty effective. It's not that she's a simple trope, she's playing the trope. And even if she comes off as lazy or flirty, she's the one in control of these exchanges. And Viridi never is seen berating her on her tactics, so the two seem to have an understanding. Still, she's smart enough not to fight Pit while she is still drained from killing Thanatos, so she retreats into the abandoned Thundercloud Temple, and even though Phosphora is recharging, she still acts as a battery to power the whole temple. So even though you're not fighting her yet, think about how much lightning she's throwing at you. The floating ruins generate a storm cloud that's hard enough to penetrate, but getting through only greets you with an anti-air lightning generator. Once inside, there's electrically locked doors, zapping floors, and all manner of traps and turrets that Phosphora herself has put into power. Phosphora obviously put a lot of work into this hideout, so much so that when she's defeated, the entire island crumbles away without her, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Phosphora is fast, and unlike Zeus, she's got the whole Dragon Ball Z flying thing going on. Not to mention, she's got a lot of range attacks to work with. And you know, now that we're at number 4, I gotta say, it's hard to explain individual lightning attacks with proper description. You just kinda have to look at it. As long as you keep moving, you should be alright, but Phosphora can take a lot of hits on higher difficulty, and you have to be careful not to let Pit get too winded. Keep in mind that Phosphora is not even fully charged during this fight. Pit's fighting her while she's in a weakened state. He's kind of a jerk, jumping her after she's just beaten a boss. Not that she'd ever tip her hand and show weakness. You defeat her, but Viridi pulls her out before anything worse can happen. So here's my question. When Palutena and Viridi eventually join forces, why isn't Phosphora in the front lines? And Arlen and Kraglanch for that matter. But especially Phosphora. She's probably just as strong as Pitipat over here, but for the rest of the game, her only job is holding onto the lightning chariot. Pit, the demigod of lightning is not your dang chauffeur. Look at her, she's faster than the lightning chariot. And she doesn't even need the power of flight, and when airborne she can travel at the speed of lightning, which a quick Google search will tell you is 3,700 miles per second. She may be a one-off boss, but as Viridi's version of Pit, there's a lot of potential there. And Sakurai seems to think so because she's a pretty awesome assist trophy in Smash. I know there isn't a sequel planned anytime soon, but I wouldn't mind if this was a bolt that struck twice.
Amen.
Enough blabbity blab. Now let's get to the main act.
It'd be kind of cool to see a Kid Icarus sequel to this.
On the surface, Larxene and Phosphora have a lot alike. They're both magical, blonde, ageless but appearing as young women, get relatively short screen time, have a sharp tongue, and rely on speed and lots of lightning. Oh, and both tend to be labeled as unlikable. While I'm quick to defend Phosphora for just being tactically manipulative, well, I have to agree on this one. Larxene is seriously screwed up. It's an interesting comparison, actually, the whole manipulation thing. I mean, manipulation is one of Larxene's main character traits, so much so that the organization calls her the Savage Nymph. Phosphora chooses some words to manipulate Pit, but it's more on small scale, and it's about tripping him up. In the end, she's not playing any elaborate game, she's loyally serving the forces of nature. Larxene revels in the chance to cause pain, physical or emotional, and she's playing probably the most elaborate game of all, more so than I think even she realizes. As a much newer member to Organization 13, Larxene quickly starts plotting with Marluxia to overthrow the organization. It doesn't go well for her. Marluxia and Larxene wanted to manipulate Sora's memory and take the Keyblade for themselves, but they made the mistake of trusting Axel, who was actually sent by Xemnas to exterminate anyone untrustworthy, but actually Axel has been working with Sykes on their own scheme to overthrow the organization, but actually Xehanort is just using the whole organization to test who is worthy of standing beside him in the next Keyblade Wars. Sorry Larxene, no one out-gambit Xehanort. Larxene appears as a boss in Kingdom Hearts
does
Chain
join
of
up with
Memories
Xehanort.
and as an optional boss in Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix. And while I keep trying not to care about Chain of Memories, I have to remark that she employs a very different moveset between the two games. The basics are the same. Her element is lightning, and her weapon is a set of 8 knives called Foudre, which is French for, well, lightning. She fights with the kunai between her fingers like claws and treats them as conduits to deal out electrical discharge, or just utilize her own latent nobody magic. In Chain of Memories, she often charges and throws the daggers lane a barrage, and casts thunder spells so that Sora has to keep moving. Pretty nifty, but that's only a fraction of her true potential. I much prefer Kingdom Hearts 2, not just because there's no card system to contend with, but because, well, look at this. Look at this! The battle starts, and just immediately, it's rapid fire hard to avoid AoE buzz death. And she really never stops. This is where you can really appreciate her speed, making her the most agile of the organization, and I'm pretty sure in Kingdom Hearts history. She's less about throwing knives now, focusing more on either getting up close and personal or just raining down havoc. Many nobodies have the power to teleport and in some ways duplicate themselves for a short period of time, but Larxene has command over lightning clones that even Zeus couldn't match. This can quickly prove overwhelming, so luckily with a good action command, Sora can grab Larxene and throw her back into herself to eliminate her cloning abilities, but she'll quickly recover them, adding in teleporting sidewinders with huge power rays. I know the organization members didn't really like her, but she would have been a valuable asset if they kept her around a little longer. Besides, she was the only woman in the organization besides that Xion girl that they kept locked up in the closet half the time. Xemnas, if you're not careful, there's going to be hell to pay with human resources.
I created another card from your memories, you know. Be a good boy and say thanks. Ta-ta.
Yeesh.
Man, Thunder and Lightning get all of the coolest gods. Norse mythology gets Thor, Greek gets Zeus, and Shinto gets Raijin, often called Raiden. Or if you're Ed Boon, you get Raiden. Screw regular pronunciation, if Boon once pronounced it as Raiden, he gets it, even if he has to occasionally change the spelling to do so. Raiden isn't exactly the Japanese deity, but he is his own all-powerful god of thunder in the Mortal Kombat universe. After defeating the rogue deity Shinnok, Raiden rose to godhood and proclaimed himself the protector of Earthrealm, hoping to keep the planet safe from the likes of Shao Kahn, Quan Chi, and Onaga. As a god, Raiden could not directly intervene in the affairs of mortals, however, and when Shang Tsung invited Raiden to Mortal Kombat to determine the fate of Earthrealm and Outworld, Raiden abdicated his godhood, taking the mortal form of a demigod to fight the forces of evil directly. He's really the driving force of most of the Mortal Kombat plot, acting as a mentor and leader to Liu Kang, Sonya, Johnny Cage, and the other Earth warriors. He's been called arguably the most powerful character in the series when in his god form, and the reboot really only exists because Raiden himself restarted the timeline. Since the demigod Raiden is the one we really see in the game, I'm inclined to ignore most of his feats as a true deity, or later as an elder god. And besides, Raiden never seems to go more than a few years with godhood status before casting it off to fight someone else. Just know that whatever you see Raiden do here is only a fraction of his ultimate power, and even then he's no slouch. With an eternity of wisdom and battle strategy, Raiden fights using the foundation of Taekwondo mixed with Jiu-Jitsu, occasionally wielding a wooden staff, and adding in liberal amounts of electricity. Whether shooting bolts, grabbing opponents with a shocking touch, or using the staff as a conducting rod, Raiden displays considerable— wait, conducting rod? But it's made of oak! Doesn't wood not conduct electricity? Well, actually, everything conducts electricity. It's just that it has an extremely high resistance and will usually catch fire before any current more than 7 amps can run through it. So not only does Raiden have a lot of electrical power, he can also manipulate how electricity works even on a physical level. Or the designers back then hadn't thought of that.
Makes sense, God.
More recently, the staff appears to be clearly made of metal. Though he's not always fully God, he is made entirely out of an electrical essence that can take a number of forms, allowing him to transform into pure electrical energy and teleport. He can even keep a charge going in the air to create electrical mines if you prefer playing as a god of zoning. Most of Raiden's fatalities involve just filling the baddie's body up with voltage until they explode into blood and bones. Wow, that would take... Actually, I have no idea what kind of voltage that would require. Probably a lot.
Let's just say
as gruesome as that is, though, I think in Mortal Kombat X, it's Raiden's brutalities and X-ray that really steal the show. Not only can he cause someone to spontaneously combust simply by teleporting into the same space they currently inhabit, he breaks your bones by launching you into the atmosphere and drawing power from the storm.
Jesus.
Raiden's not always a god, but he's always an incredible Electromancer. And he always seems to be the last good guy standing when things have gone south.
Someone's gotta be the god of lightning. Ugh. Nasty. There goes the head. Raiden wins.
Flawless victory.
Fatality. And number 1?
Similar to my quandary in the top 10 Aquamancers, my top 2 choices are practically tied, mainly because they're just really different and hard for me to compare. I even think Raiden's possibly the strongest character on this list, but for exploring the furthest extent of what an element of lightning can do, I choose to concede the number 1 spot to Cole McGrath.
Oh, Infamous. Oh, that's a good one.
Just as a warning, my explanation is going to end up spoiling Infamous 1 and 2, so if that's going to be a problem, at least you know who my number 1 choice is. Cole wasn't anything special before the blast. He was a college dropout, had a rocky relationship with his parents, and was working as a bike delivery man in Empire City while practicing urban exploration in his spare time. Oh, and one time he was run over by a freight truck, but we don't have to worry about that. The real catalyst in Cole's life was a strange delivery he had to make that turned out to be a device called the Ray Sphere. The buyer, a mysterious man named Kessler, offered him $500 to open it. And when Cole did, the Ray Sphere exploded, killing several people, taking out the city's main power grid, and miraculously imbuing Cole with the powers of electrokinesis and electromagnetic
That would be the
manipulation.
conduit gene.
Well, it actually wasn't all so miraculous. We later find out that Cole was always a conduit and his powers were just dormant until this blast. His being a conduit meant that he could heal quickly, was a little stronger and faster than the everyday man, and had superhuman durability. Oh, and that's why he survived the freight truck. Infamous 1 and 2 are some of the best sandbox experiences I've ever played. Like GTA, but instead of guns and cars, you get lightning
that on
powers.
PC.
And those lightning powers are really all Cole needs. Start by pouring the standard FPS loadout into his arms. There's his go-to lightning bolts, which shock people or power up electronic devices, and with the right upgrades he can loose the bolts at rapid fire. Arc lightning is more of a continuous chain, overload burst is a huge blast not unlike a shotgun, and precision gives Cole the acute range of an elite sniper, just with lightning. As Cole explores the city and fights gang members and police alike, his powers continue to evolve, growing stronger and more varied. In Infamous 1, he's able to charge up his arms with what he calls the Gigawatt Blades, disabling most men in a single punch. He's also able to form shock grenades that bounce off walls and stick to enemies, use the Megawatt Hammer that's essentially his rocket launcher, and use shockwaves to knock everyone around him into the air. Defensively, he can polarize the air around him to create barriers such as the Polarity Wall. The same technique does wonders for his parkour training. He can float and sometimes fly by polarizing the air with enough magnetic force to counteract gravity, which he calls the static thrusters. Or he can grind across electrical wires, tether himself to tall buildings, or drop out of the air onto unsuspecting targets, converting his potential energy into kinetic energy as he falls in the form of a thunder drop. Cole isn't without his weaknesses though. He does suffer from an energy shortage, as his electrical output is limited to the amount of energy he can store at any time. Luckily, his engineering pal Zeke rigged him up with a battery pack that is able to hold more and more energy over the course of the game, especially if Cole goes out of the way to collect some blast shards. And even if he does run out, Cole can recharge himself off of any electrical source he can find, which in this day and age is easy to come by. For that matter, Cole can learn to heal himself faster by actually sucking the energy out of other people. Whether you go for good Cole or evil Cole, more variations on his powers continue to crop up, with electrical blasts that can suspend targets in the air, or stimulating his own brain to work at near bullet time. With the ability to convert electricity into other forms of energy, anything is now possible. If he wants to help an injured civilian, his hands are defibrillators. He's able to send out a radar pulse to locate key people and blast shards. He can fire a Tesla missile that he can guide remotely. And did you know that Cole is psychic? By reading the electrical paths of the neurons in a person's brain and mimicking them with his own, Cole can actually steal memories from people, even if the person in question is dead. In Infamous 2, he can use electromagnetism to lift and throw heavy metallic objects. This game is like playing a gritty reboot of Static Shock. There's just so many uses for his power. Heck, even his melee capabilities improve when good old Zeke invented the Amp, a cattle prod-like instrument that Cole can swing and channel power through. Oh, Zeke, why would anyone ever play the evil ending? Amen. With ionic powers, Cole can even manipulate the weather to create thunderstorms. And eventually, Cole can learn to manipulate fire or ice. I'll admit, that's kind of a damper on the power trip here, but it's only because Quo and or Nick share their power with you by using the power transfer device, so in a way, it's just them assisting you. Because despite all of these powers, it's Cole's achievements that really make him my number one. So those of you moderately knowledgeable about the first game might be familiar with Kessler, the guy who made Cole activate the Ray Sphere and, as it turns out, is an insanely powerful Electromancer in his own right. So you might wonder, why not use Kessler instead? Simply put, because if I did, I'd still be using Cole. Kessler is actually Cole from the future, come back from an apocalypse. At this point, his powers have actually extended into one-way time travel. Whether that's his own power or something converted from someone else's power is anyone's guess. Kessler failed to prevent the beast from destroying the world, so he's now in our timeline, activating young Cole's powers earlier and attempting to kill his friends and loved ones, forcing Cole to get stronger and giving him nothing else to lose so that he will be strong enough the day the beast comes. He has more powerful versions of Cole's moves, robots that he can command electronically, the psychic aspects of his powers are enhanced so that he can share his visions by converting neurons in other brains, he seems to store an unlimited amount of electricity, and he can teleport, perhaps in a way similar to Raiden. Keep in mind that all of this is derived from electromancy, and all of it from a possible version of Cole McGrath. But despite being incredibly powerful, present-day Cole has the power to best his future counterpart and continues growing stronger thereafter. In a Chuck Norris strain of logic, the only person who can kill Cole McGrath is Cole McGrath. And he's been trained by Cole McGrath. I'm not even done. In Infamous 2's ending, he can choose to ally with the Beast, making him like an electrical herald of the apocalypse, and eventually taking the Beast's powers for himself and become godlike. But that means you have to... kill Zeke. Never mind, we're not doing that. Instead, in the good ending, Cole can actually be the one to take down that unstoppable avatar of destruction, while fighting off Lucy Quo and powering the Rayfield inhibitor at the same time. And though the RFI is some impressive tech, it's by Cole's own power that it saves the world, meaning Cole just let off an electrical pulse that spanned the entire planet. Now, I'll admit, fighting gods and saving Earth are things Raiden does every other Thursday, and in many ways he still best exhibits the qualities I expect from the element. He's fast, he's powerful, he beckons forth the storm and has enough voltage to blow up a guy. But Cole has variety on his side, and he's able to stretch the concept of electromancy into realms practically unimaginable. Yet, it totally makes sense for the game's own scientific logic. Through mastering electricity, Cole masters energy itself. I'm the Green Scorpion, and thanks you guys for joining me for Weapons Month 4. It was quite the ride, and I'll see you next time.
See you soon.
We all just held our breath and watched.
as one by one, them monsters started to drop. Yeah, that RFI worked all right. News said even some folks overseas were keeling over. Poor bastards must have been conduits and didn't even know
It worked. Like
it. But
stopped.
it was worth it. Because for the thousands that died, millions were gonna live. The plague, man, it was just gone. I could already hear people starting to party. Just celebrating being alive.
Yep.
I thought my friend was gonna go down as an unsung hero. But here in New Marais,
Ain't no such
they
thing.
knew what he had done for them. Who'd have guessed that the demon of Empire City would become the patron saint of New Marais?
Thanks, Cole.
I wanted to say goodbye to him alone. He had been my best friend, and now he was gone. Sometimes I hear folks talking about conduits and humans like they're totally different. That's bullshit. Because there ain't nobody with more humanity than Cole McGrath. I love you, brother,
Hope you come back soon.
and I'm sure gonna miss you.
Well, unfortunately, haven't seen much from Infinites. I mean, ever since Second Son, they haven't really shown. Would be kind of cool if we actually did see Cole McGrath come back, but that's gonna have to wait tonight. So, hope you enjoyed. Till next time, guys. Thanks for watching. See ya.